Are you sick of fair wages? Do you want to wait in breadlines all day? Can you just not stand the sight of a privately owned business? Well, same here. And as a true blue, I mean red, communist, I should explain to all the capitalists watching this video why their ideology is wrong. And I'll do that looking at the prime example of a communist society, the Soviet Union. Back in the early 1900s, the Russian Empire had been a successful nation with a good economy, and a rapidly industrializing one at that. But as we all know, us communists do not like it when a country is actually doing well. And so the genius of Karl Marx had at last caught up with the Russian populace, as they would incite the empire to sign peace with Germany, only to start another war, just one with themselves. This should truly show that communism is far superior to capitalism, pulling out of a war only to start a revolution for the abolishment of classes and thus the equal distribution of wealth, causing the majority of the population to become equally poor. Now, if I was a capitalist scum, I would think that was a bad thing, but it isn't. It benefited the glorious communist leaders who decided to take the remaining funds and become rich themselves, which they obviously deserve after giving false hope to the peasants, simply because they instated communism. Speaking of glorious leaders, the man who started it all, Vladimir Lenin, had gotten sick as fuck. I mean, look at him. The man became a cripple. So obviously he was looking to choose his successor before he died, picking Leon Trotsky. Now, instead of Trotsky taking power, Stalin used the fundamentals of communism to share the power. Trotsky, not wanting Stalin to take power, of course, would do nothing about his growing cult of personality and his own subsequent decline in ranks. Boy, I sure do hope somebody got executed for that blunder. With Stalin in power, he did what every great communist leader does. Starts a famine in Ukraine and purges his best generals, of course. Let's not forget about the mass censorship that ongoed during this era of the Soviet Union. But like all communist policies, these were genius and only propelled the Soviet Union toward becoming a world superpower. Oh, and a war with Germany happened or something. Obviously the Soviet Union won, as they did with every single war they were in, ever. Okay, maybe I forgot about Afghanistan. In the late 1970s, the Soviets looked to aid fellow communist insurgents in Afghanistan due to their interest in the Panjab region, as well as obviously wanting to spread the ideology of the average supreme gentleman worldwide. Now, while you could argue this war was a commercial failure, you would be wrong. You see, because the Soviets fought in Afghanistan and then withdrew, it meant that now the US had to do it because all that stupid liberals know how to do is intervene in this country, intervene in that country. It's pathetic, really. So don't even try to act like the Soviets failed, because it was all a part of their grand scheme. All of this should show easily why the Soviet Union is the prime example of a communist society. Okay, but I bet you guys are gonna be like, but the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Checkmate, libtards. You have forced me to play my trap card.
China.
As we all know, China is the second coming of communism, with it having the humble beginnings of a bloody year-long civil war, endorsing the peasantry, only to pull back on their promises of class abolishment, a genius endeavor done by the likes of every communist nation. As glorious leader Mao Zedong had wanted to prove his country is worthwhile in the communist world, he turned around and starved 30 million people in an effort to industrialize, going to show that he was up there with the likes of Lenin and Stalin, and that he had been closely following the Soviet plans to sabotage the US through murder of their population to propel their technology, which of course was the only reasonable option for the Chinese in this situation. And so, I really can't blame them. Now, around the same time, Mao's peers foolishly thought of his choices regarding the Great Leap Forward and how it had started a mass famine as bad.
I think I'll eat it now. Oh!
You took my only food! Now I'm gonna starve!
Thus beginning the Cultural Revolution as a fresh start of sorts for China. So what ended up happening was that the Chinese looked at their glorious Soviet overlords and decided to purge the filthy, capitalistic ideas that had lingered on from previous Chinese cultures to preserve the communist Chinese identity. A masterful move. While the libtards were playing checkers, Mao was instead playing chess. He was a demigod of sorts, a true master of his craft, and it is a shame that he had passed. If only he was still alive today to further condemn the horrid, imperialistic nature of the United States. With Maoism supporting massacres of any group that posed a threat to the Communist Party, it was only natural that when protests occurred in Tiananmen Square around the same time as similar protests in the Soviet Union, that military action occurred to immediately put an end to these retarded, cuck liberals, with tanks rolling onto the scene as they would fire onto the protesters and innocent bystanders alike, clearly demonstrating the willpower of the Communist Party, and it was worth doing. Otherwise, the filthy pigs would have taken power of China through horrid, revolutionary means and attempt to take away the workers' rights and re-establish capitalism. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Anyways, what was I talking about? Tiananmen Square massacre? Oh, that's just a common myth told by the US government to scare the populace into not converting into communism. Easily one of the most pathetic methods of doing so. But even with all of the information I've given to show why capitalists are wrong, all of the filthy, libtard degenerates who believe in this ideology will not believe me, which is why I need you, the glorious communist viewers, to start a petty comment war or harass your favorite capitalist on Twitter for not believing the same things as you. This means war.